Awesome. Welcome to another episode of A Podcast. Your host, Stephen Maxted. And today we have Cristina San, co-founder of 6 Degree Photobooth with us. And we're talking photo booths today, Christina. We met a little while ago and through some mutual connections in business here. And yeah, excited to chat more about how this got started for you, for the audience today. I know you gave me a little background before when we met, and it's very cool. It's very inspiring. So I'm excited to have you on today, and thanks for making time in your busy schedule to join us.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. And Christina, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about how this started for you? Like many entrepreneurs, there's always a bit of a story, sometimes not, but I know that when you were getting into it, I found it, yeah, very intriguing. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit more about what got 6 Degree Photobooth started and yeah, what really like kicked off that journey?
Sounds good. So our story is quite unique, and every time that I tell somebody, they either had no idea of the way it all kind of worked out for us, or they encourage me to tell the story more because they find it so interesting, which is part of the reason why I'm here, because it's
Yeah.
story. It's not a very traditional story, and I hope it does inspire people to kind of take that leap of faith and start doing what they really love. So the company actually started not with me in particular, but with my husband, Sam. And so in 2016, he was shooting a wedding as a secondary assistant. And he actually came across a photo booth set up there, and he thought it was a really cool idea. But he also thought that he could approach it a little bit differently and really create more of a luxury brand behind it. I think when people picture photo booths, they think of it being very tacky, lots of, dollar store themed props, not a super elegant setup, and those kinds of things. And so he wanted to do something a little bit different. And he approached it with a mindset of making it a luxury brand. And he intended for it to only be a side hustle. He didn't really think of it being a long-term gig for him, but he had always had a passion for photography and didn't want to really take the traditional route of being a full-on wedding or brand photographer. So he thought this was a little bit different. And slowly the business started gaining traction. We strategically started working with people who aligned with our brand and who we wanted to see our brand in action and really appreciate the quality of what we do. And before he knew it, it was getting really busy for him. And fast forward a couple of years later, he decided to go full time. That was in July of 2019, right before COVID, which was an interesting time. Once we wrapped up COVID and we were ready to get back into the game, I came on full time. Of course, I had always been a part of the business, but my role officially became full time around 2022. And now we've sort of found our place. Each of us have found our place in the business with our very specific roles. As people, we do things very differently, but when it comes to the business, we're always very focused and align on what the vision of the business needs to be. It's not always perfect, of course, but we accept that we each have different skills. And so we bring that to the table to work together in a way that works for us. So it's interesting. We're a husband and wife team.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun, but of course, you're also sharing a home and a family with the person you work with all the time. So
Right.
we're in this constant phase of trying to create, a bit of a balance between when do we talk about work, when do we not talk about work, and it can be a struggle sometimes, but overall, it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know it definitely. It was one of the things we chatted about before. I'd love to dive into a little bit more. But how do you find, it's one of the bigger challenges within that. I guess it is like kind of you mentioned there about like the dialogue and separating the work from the home life because it's so easy for them to become one thing there. But what's one of the things that you guys do or set parameters around that to keep that in check or healthy balance that way? It seems like the way that you're talking about it, you have very positive communication around that topic in general. But what's one of the tips you might have for someone out there in the same situation?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we're still trying to figure that out ourselves. We're perfect.
Yeah,
But what's interesting, we actually had a conversation, I believe last week about this, about how do we create more of a work-life balance? And honestly, I don't think you can. There are
right,
times and seasons where work is going to take priority, and there are seasons when life is going to take priority. And it can never be perfect. We can't be at every one of our kids' events. We can't constantly be working. Like we just sort of have to
right,
find an in between that works for us. In terms of the home life, we do try and not talk about work when the kids are home, and we are trying to be more present with them. But it is challenging, especially if we
yeah,
come across an idea or we think of something that's really
yeah,
important or something, really urgent happens with work or business. We do have to talk about it. So I think it's just accepting that it's going to happen.
yeah,
And if one of us is like, I just don't want to talk about work tonight. I just want to leave it. Let's just enjoy the night together. Let's go for a walk or go out with the kids. Then the other knows that that's what needs to happen before we reach a place of burnout.
for sure. No, yeah, because that could definitely be a thing. But it's funny. I'm thinking about that too, because often the great idea or the other thing comes in a moment of relaxation away from the office or the role that you have. So then that would be fall right in the lap of personal time when you're trying to get away from it. Is usually when the good idea comes to light, and I'm sure there's been moments of that on both your accounts where the light bulb turns on, but yeah,
Yeah,
you're in more of a relaxed state or doing something enjoyable.
yeah,
um,
yeah, and we're complete opposites in that way too. Like I am an early morning person, and Sam is a night owl. So
right,
again, you can sort of understand how we're a little bit different in that way too. But yeah, like some of his ideas come up late at night, and mine are like first thing in the morning. So it's interesting just trying to balance like how we operate very differently as entrepreneurs too. It's a
right,
it's a work in progress, but overall it works pretty well.
awesome. Now, Christina, have you done entrepreneurial like things before getting into this business, or is this the first time for you kind of exploring running your own company or in that degree? I know it's can go either way, but often with entrepreneurs, there's something before that they've done or pursued, and it's something that they've always been with. So,
Yeah, so I have dabbled in a few different things, just because I'm very curious. I'm a naturally curious person, and I want to try things and see if they work. And if I do have a great idea that I think can take off, I will just try it. And I'm not a super risky person. I'm always very cautious about what I'm doing. So if I feel like it will work, I will try it.
yeah,
Now that doesn't go for everything, of course, but if I know I can start small and sort of scale in a way that's comfortable, then by all means I'll try it. So yeah, I did have I actually had an invitation business a long, long time ago before my kids were even born.
cool,
And I did a lot of DIY invitations. And then we, started a family, and that kind of just got put on the back burner, which is fine. I'm still glad that I did it and got the experience with that. Um,
100%.
yeah, but I actually went to university to be a teacher, and so I had a teaching background for a very long time.
Nice.
But like things change, and I just wasn't feeling like that was going to be it for me. I think
Of course.
I've always been a natural leader and an entrepreneur, eh, instinctively, I guess. And I just, yeah, I love to take things like inspiration and try them. And so I didn't
Cool.
feel like I could get that from teaching, and decided to make the leap and went in with Sambeth to do the job full time in the business. So
Awesome. No, that's great, and you're definitely not alone in terms of like the stories that we've had on here for people being really kind of like set in their career. It's either like or the first time they're jumping out of it, or yeah, they had gone on one path and they got the itch and couldn't avoid that noise, we'll call it, or feeling that they need to get into it. So that's really cool to hear that you're of similar thing there. And maybe let's talk a little, Christine, like what's the business all about? And what are you guys offering to people on that side of things if someone doesn't know and not familiar with the business? I mean, it's kind of in the name, I think, a little bit for people to know, but what do you guys offer for services?
Yeah, so we offer a range of photo booth services. That also encompasses a lot of photo and video services in general, but really we're at the
Okay.
heart of it more of an experience company. So anytime that we talk to people about our services, um, we always mention like we're not just a photo booth rental. And I think that's quite apparent even in our marketing and on our website. We
Cool.
very clearly use the word experience for a reason because that is what we're bringing, and it's an end-to-end experience. So from the moment that people inquire with us until the very minute we are setting up for their event. But essentially, we do rent out photo booths for a range of events. We do a lot of private events like weddings and parties. But on the other side of things, we do a lot of corporate stuff. And so that could be
Okay.
brand activations. It could be galas, grand openings. There's a whole range of corporate work out there. We do a lot of work in the sports industry too. So we've
Okay.
worked with the Winnipeg Jets and the Manitoba Moose. We're working with the Sea Bears again this year. We've worked with the Blue Bombers. So there really
Cool.
is no limit in terms of who you can work with in the industry. And I think a lot of it is untapped. And we've set ourselves apart in a way where we have been able to tap into these industries and these events and offer our services for them in a way that works. Every event is very unique. And so whenever we approach an event, we always want to find out
Right.
what the organizer is looking for because their goals can often be very different. But essentially, with corporate clients, our photo booths are more of a marketing tool for them. So there's
Cool.
a lot of branding that goes into it. We can put logos and custom copy within our photo booths and really make it a branded experience for the company.
Very cool. Is that meaning kind of like just, I'm going to ask a really simple question here, but like on the backdrops and stuff, as far as that goes, then they have kind of this like thing tied to them specifically. Is that kind of what you mean by that?
Yeah, we don't do so much of the backdrop necessarily, although we can, but
Okay.
more so with the photo booths, like we can brand the start screen, we brand the
Oh, okay, I see. Oh,
tables.
like this. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so more of the digital side. Sorry, I was
Yeah,
just trying to
more,
get a grasp on that.
yeah, exactly. And with our digital experience, guests will send the photo to their email, so they'll receive it on their
Nice.
phone, and everything is fully branded with the company's name.
Very awesome.
Mhm.
Very cool. I know I could totally see that being a fit within corporate events. I mean, it's tougher to get people together and excited about different things in many ways, and so I think that would be like a great experience to have there. And that's exactly, I always have the website on the other screen here. I don't have a third person to do the research while we're on here to ask that, but it's very simply put on here corporate events. And then we have weddings and celebrations as the core of the business. But what's
Yeah.
kind of like a very unique event that you guys have done outside like the sports world or weddings, or that sticks out for you? It sounds like I mean, there's been a number of them, but has there any been like a unique event where that sticks out in the company's history for you guys?
Oh gosh, there are
Oh, picking the brain too hard. I'm sure that there's lots.
we've literally been to hundreds of events over the years, and it would be really hard to pick one. Um, but I would say, just in general, I think the events that really put a lot of thought and detail into their theme and the way they want to execute their message is always something that stands out for us. Um,
Right.
I think I don't think people realize how much effort and work and time events actually take. And when it comes to an event like a gala, often
Right.
about 90% of the time, there's a goal there to raise money for a particular cause as well.
Right.
So it is almost acting like a fundraiser. Um,
Yeah.
and so when there's a common goal in mind and everyone is coming together to support a particular cause, that really becomes something special. And we have a lot of local companies in the city that do such a fantastic job of knowing how to execute events. So, I mean, there have been many, many that stand out for us, but I think it's the ones who really take the time to put in a lot of thought and a lot of detail to make everything look and feel so cohesive. It's more than just
Cool.
the color of the tablecloths or, um, you know, the type of signage they're using. Like it's how you feel when you walk into that room. And we've been
Yeah.
blown away so many times and just often pinch ourselves because we get to be a part of these amazing events with these fantastic, talented people who are doing what they love too. So it's just a really neat space to be in.
Very awesome. No, I think that's greatly put. I mean, and you're probably right putting it on the spot like there's many events that you guys would have participated in and even being part of like the sports side of it and keeping, the energy around those events live and well and engagement there. Um, so
Mhm.
how many years has this been then for this venture so far, Christina? Because I think you mentioned in 2016 maybe it was first seen, but when did it first really start for you guys?
Yeah, so the business launched very late in 2016, but we started gaining most traction around 2018, 2019.
Very
So
cool.
really, it was only about a year
Yeah.
and a half, 2 years, maybe right before COVID. And so, in a lot of
Right.
ways, it feels like we have had to start over, and just after COVID and the pandemic.
Yeah.
But fortunately, we've had a lot of clients that have stuck around, and we're just kind of waiting along with us. And yeah, we just continue to push through and stay resilient. We knew we weren't going anywhere and knew we would be coming back with a vengeance. So we just stuck to
Totally.
it. And yeah, but when I say we've been around since 2016, it doesn't really feel like it because we had such a gap in there where events were not happening for us just because of
Totally.
the times we were in. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's really cool to hear too. I know like like historically with other things I've been involved in is, especially from the starting stage, it almost takes like 2 or 3 years for you to be top of mind for other things. That's what I found anyways. And it totally makes sense when you said the timeline. I'm like, cool. People just started getting in the pattern. And then unfortunately probably had a hard stop and then a slow takeoff again. But living through that experience, I mean, um, is unfortunate, but very good, I think, for the resilience of the business. Part of being in startup and launching things is that resilience stage of we're gonna, endurance wise, stay here the course of time and be there on the other side of whatever that thing is. So
Mhm.
that's very cool. And I know this, we've talked about this before, but the area you cover is not just local to Winnipeg. You are reaching a bigger area than that on its own here. So let's talk a little bit about that. How far is the reach right now, and what does that look like for the team?
So we recently announced that we are now serving Saskatoon, Ottawa, and Calgary, which is really exciting.
Very
Um,
cool.
and so we have partners out there that we work with to execute events in different cities. So that's an interesting challenge for our business right now. Challenge in a good way, but also just a lot of unknowns, of course, when you're trying to scale.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really exciting. So if anyone has an event in other provinces, often organizers will have events happening in Manitoba, but they cross promote events in other provinces too. They can feel free to reach out to us and find out more about what we can do. But yeah, that's been an exciting announcement that we just recently shared. So yeah.
Yeah, or I guess hopefully that was okay to ask on here. I know I saw it on the
No
socials before
problem.
we hopped on. I saw that was on there, so I did want to inquire about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you're basically covering Western Canada with the company now as like a broad statement there, and which is fantastic to hear because there's if you've covered here for a few years and now we're getting into other markets, that's very cool. What's one of the biggest challenges with doing that expansion and that announcement for you guys?
Yeah, that's a good question and something I've reflected a lot on recently. I think when we started here in Winnipeg, we had we had a lot of people and resources that we could tap into here that could also
Right.
help to spread the message that we were providing the services that we do.
Mhm.
And I feel like in Winnipeg, once you start connecting with the right people and you start showing what you're capable of, it kind of just spreads like wildfire. Um,
Right.
and building a business here in Winnipeg is really rewarding because you feel like you have a lot of community support as well, and a
Right.
lot of people who are
Yes.
cheering you on. So we were really lucky that we never really had to do a lot of traditional types of advertising. A lot of our business came from referrals and word of mouth. And of course, we have the advantage where our setup is live at an event. So that is part of our advertising, of course. Um,
Totally.
but I would say the challenge right now is not knowing, how those cities operate exactly, not having a lot of knowledge in terms of who is out there. Of course, we've done our research, and that just comes with, planning and
Yeah.
expansion anyway. But it's very different in the sense that we had a foundation here. We had contacts. We had a network where we could start, tapping into. And you don't necessarily have that elsewhere. So I would say
Totally.
that is the challenge. And then, of course, the added stress and challenges of not always physically being somewhere where you
Right.
can go and, save the day if you need to. A lot of things have to happen remotely. So I think it's just understanding those pieces, and with time, it'll become easier. Um, but I think that is what I would say for our industry anyway is the biggest challenge right now.
No, definitely. Well, that sounds just really exciting. Just the way that you're chatting about that and those expansions do come with those those stresses exactly is the kind of directly out of your specific control. Like you said, you could kind of probably show up somewhere here to help with, XYZ if something falls off the rails, which, as much as you plan ahead and hopefully it's dialed in, things can happen, along there. And, our ability as like entrepreneurs to fix that is kind of what I think that, makes it perfect for the fit for folks like yourself to be running those things. So
Yeah.
very cool.
And I
Yeah.
think because we take such pride in our quality too, and our team and the people who work with us, um, it's challenging to try and keep everything as consistent as possible when you can't be there physically all the
Yes.
time. So you need to have strong people who can execute the job and communicate and be transparent. So really, it is all about building out the team in a way that you feel is best. So
Awesome. Now, I guess on the specific products that you have at the photo booths, I'm sure people have like one thing in mind, but I know that I've seen the other products on the site here and I've experienced. Maybe it was some of your booths, by the way. I don't know this for certain. It could very well have been, but at other events where we're doing, like, I don't even know what it's called. I think it's called like a 360 camera. But maybe I'll ask you, like, what are all the products? Because there might be stuff that's not on the site here as well that you do offer to get in kind of like the weeds there and talk about what those booths do look like or can look like for you guys. So, what are all the booth options? I guess without putting you too on the spot, I have it on my other screen here.
yeah.
So,
So we offer print, we offer digital, we offer 360 video. We also offer a roaming booth, which is really neat. So instead of having
what?
a physical setup, our
Oh,
attendant actually walks around with the photo booth. So that's been
cool.
a huge hit for larger outdoor events like festivals. We did bring it to a Bombers game. It's the one that we're using for the Sea Bears coming up. So
Cool.
so that's really exciting. We're not really limited to what we can do. We just always want to ensure that the quality is there and that we can provide the absolute best experience. So if we do get requests for certain things, as long as we're able to execute it, we will consider it. So I wouldn't say that the things listed on the website are the things
Right.
we're limited to necessarily, but it's the things that are definitely the most popular
For
for the
sure.
company. Yeah.
No, that's super cool. I mean, and like the example of, we'll call it the 360 booth. I don't know what year that officially like came out in, but it seems like it's only been around for a couple of years. Um, and it's very popular at events that I've been to and seen, but so are, we'll call it kind of like the physical copy and or digital copy services that I've seen and been at. It always gets people very excited to be at the event. Let's go jump in the photo booth. Let's um, go take this photo together. And I'm sure that it becomes a very rewarding part of the job outside of, running a successful business, but seeing kind of the joy and happiness that that brings to folks um, at those events.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, anytime we're at an event, everyone is laughing, right? They're out having a good
Yeah.
time. Very rarely will we ever come across someone who is not happy. And generally, we don't get people coming to take their photo if they're not really that kind of a person. So it's great. Like we meet a lot of fun people. We get to know people through this job that we have, if I can call it a job. Um, yeah,
Isn't that funny? Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, it's just amazing. We've made a lot of great friendships through the events that we work. A lot of great business contacts. It's just been so fulfilling in a lot of ways.
Very awesome. Now you mentioned that there's things like outside of here that you can, like you would explore, and I totally get where that's coming from. I do have a curious question. You might not have an answer for this one right away too, but is there other things coming down the line that you're exploring that are kind of like new to industry or that might be coming soon? Like I said, don't want to put you in a weird spot to like say something. If you can't, that's okay. But I know, like I said, the 360 booth is something that's been new in the last couple of years, but I'm sure that there's things that someone like myself haven't thought of, but you're in the industry, maybe seeing things out there from a different lens. So yeah, I don't know if you can
Mhm.
comment on that or if there's anything that you're looking
Yeah.
at.
No, what I will say is that we're always thinking about the big picture and the vision of our company. And I think that while photo and video is always going to be a staple with us, we are definitely exploring branching out into more experience-based activations in general. And
Cool.
so we're working on that kind of stuff behind the scenes, because there are so many cool things and neat opportunities to showcase. And I think that we're ready for it. And like I said, photo and video will always be a part of our services. I think we'll always have those original packages that people love and come to expect from us. But we will start branching out into offering different experiences that aren't necessarily related to photo and video. So if people want to
Awesome.
stay tuned for that.
I like it. No, it's the cliffhanger. We'll keep them guessing on that one. That's no, I love to hear that, and I'm sure it is exciting. There's always something that is, potential to come into many business, or hopefully people are exploring that as the one in the driver's seat, looking at new things to bring in and explore. But the stuff you guys have is really cool. Either way on here, like I said, as from personally experiencing the things that are on here, such as the like I said, the 360 and some of the other things, it is always um, a great event when those are there. Just changes the whole mood
Yeah.
of that side of things. So, what I guess like when you're looking at the corporate side of things, what kind of companies would be a good fit for the booth? Or I don't know if there is anyone out there that like is kind of seen as like the avatar client in that sense. But have you found any patterns there for the style of events that companies have hosted, or why they might be hosting them, and what that might look like for them to plant that seed in their brain about, hey, that is a great idea. Someone in the office thinking, hey, wait a sec, we should have that.
Yeah, I think our photo booths can be, a fun form of entertainment, of course, but I think it's the companies who are really looking at how to stretch their marketing dollars. It becomes a really valuable tool for them. And a lot of people, I guess, don't really realize the potential of what our services can do. So we can actually brand our photo booths for the company. And so if they're set up at an event and they have their logo on the start screen and the template that now people are sharing, and there's great reach with that, as
Yeah,
well as the email message that they get when they send their photo to themselves. Like there are so many different components of the branded experience. And when their logo is front and center on the screen and people are using that, and sometimes hundreds of people at a time will be at an event using that, the reach is huge for them. And so what we're finding is a lot of interest with companies wanting to sponsor our photo booth for their event. So if you think of
very cool.
an event or a gala where there's a sponsorship opportunity, maybe as a
Right.
presenting sponsor, for example, what they
Yeah.
would get in return is, maybe recognition on the website or in the brochure, maybe on the tent card on the table, on the TV that's, around the room. But our question is, maybe that is enough and that's great, but could you stretch your dollar even further, and think of an unconventional way to market your services and your company? And can you do that
Totally.
through a different avenue like a photo booth where now you have hundreds of eyes on it? And people will keep those photos. And what we find is they post them all over social media and LinkedIn
Right.
because they're proud to share
The
the
event
time.
and totally.
Yeah, exactly. So we're really focusing on that, and we're seeing companies reach out to us very interested in those opportunities. So yeah, it's been fun to really explore this. In a way, we're kind of operating like a marketing agency in some ways, not completely, of course, but kind of
Yeah,
just
yeah.
taking on that approach, which has been really fascinating.
No, 100%. I mean, you're helping these companies with their reach, like you mentioned, through organic, very organic, but fun, and people want to share that on there. I think that's a huge play that a lot of folks should be considering for
Mhm.
their events, right? Because otherwise you end up on a screen. Like I'm just thinking back to an event that we were sponsored with the Type A brand here, but we ended up on the screen for a couple seconds on a thing, which is still great. We, good exposure that way, but to, maybe consider something like this in the future, my brain definitely thinks that way. So sold on here as far as that goes. I think it's just very good. And yeah, the engagement there is just a very different level than just seeing something across the screen. It's making people do something that they're, hopefully mostly comfortable with. Like you said, the social folks that want to be in there, and hopefully, it pulls people that are maybe not as social. Their social friend drags them over and says, "Hey, let's go grab a photo together," or within that company, just creating more, I guess, ultimately, like culture around the event and drawing up that good energy that way. Because for a long time we've seen different things. Taking the selfie at the work environment where one person sits in there, but it's something about nice about having that high quality photo and with that branding on there that they are sharing. So yeah, I mean, definitely clicks a box in my head. Hopefully, a listener here is also thinking the same thing. Hey, like we got to get a hold of Christina here for something with six, not to make it a total sell, but it just seems like such a great idea in this day and age to do that. And sounds like it's very customized for every event
Mhm.
to make that happen. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and there's all kinds of features we can do, and use, and so when we chat with companies, we always wanna find out what their goal is, like, what is your vision
right,
for using our photo booth? Like, what are you trying to get out of it? And once we
totally.
know the reason and the objective behind it, then we're able to come up with more of a concept behind it, that works for the client and that will most likely gain results from it too, so,
Cool. That's
yeah.
awesome. And what does timeline look like if someone is looking to, I mean, of course, things may be subject to when you're already booked and stuff, but how far ahead on the calendar are you kind of looking, and how much time do you need as a heads up? Obviously you want to customize this for, highest success rate, but we'll say on average, what does that kind of look like
Mhm.
for the listener here?
Yeah, well, fortunately, we are top of mind for a lot of our clients, and so they are booking us out into 2025, which we're very
Wow,
grateful for.
that is awesome.
But yeah, but I would say, in the events industry, you know, it can be, you're getting emails about an event, 6 months away from now or a week away from now.
Yeah.
So that's not to say we're always like we're last on people's lists, but there's so many different pieces that come
Oh, no, no,
with
for
organizing
sure.
an event, and so that just tends to happen.
Yeah.
But definitely, if people know that they want us there, that we can be available, then they will book us well in advance. I would say to guarantee that we have availability, definitely book as soon as possible, but anywhere between 6 to 9 months is ideal, just because we want to be able to plan everything out appropriately, make sure we have all the details covered, and work with the client from beginning to end. But we can
Awesome.
execute jobs a week in advance. We've had day of
Okay.
requests before. That doesn't happen often, but if we
Yeah.
can make it work for the client, we will. Um,
100%.
so yeah, there's a range
Cool.
there.
No, that's awesome. Well, what I heard you say there, more time the better, especially for, specific things that you want to really like nail down for their expectations, but you can kind of jump to the pump and be there for the like a week out kind of thing. Hopefully it's definitely not like a day of. And what's kind of the process then for someone to, but I mean, I know I see this on the site here too, or from the first page, but we'll just kind of say it out loud for what does that process typically look like for someone who does book, and what does that start off with for that customer journey?
hmm So they'll usually reach out through our website. We determine whether we can service the event based on what they're looking for. But in order for us to do that, we need to get on a call, or at least get as much information as possible through email,
Okay.
to ensure that we are the right fit for them. And so once we've gone through that, we will deliver a proposal or some sort of package with information on pricing and what we're including exactly. And then obviously confirm that we're available to do it. And really, after that, I would say for the client, it's pretty smooth sailing. We take care of pretty much everything on the back end, from design, making sure that we have all of our equipment ready. We do the full setup and the full teardown live on event day. So the client really doesn't have to worry about anything. Um, they may have to provide us, just basic details like where we're going to be set up, the timing,
Okay.
the colors of the design, the backdrop, those kinds of things, just like the final details that really are important. Um,
Okay.
but we handle pretty much everything else on the back end, which is why so many clients like to work with us over and over again, because they know that they're in good hands and that we can
Right on.
execute from beginning to end with them. Um, yeah, so that's what I would
Very
say
awesome.
is it's really for the client, they don't have a lot to do,
Right.
which
It's
is a
pretty awesome. So basically, reach out through the website. Sounds like set up a meeting will be set outside of that, and then it's um, in your hands to execute and show up and do the rest of everything that they are kind of looking for.
exactly. Yeah.
Sounds easy.
We've made it as easy as we can. We're still always trying to improve on that. Like, how can we take the onus off the client?
Right.
So that's always, I think, going to be a work in progress. But we've really worked hard to streamline as much as we can, because I think clients really appreciate when you can just handle everything like a one-stop shop. So yeah.
Yes, very relatable. Definitely is easier that way. And what's the best way to find? I know that we mentioned the website, but let's just talk about like socials, social media and stuff. I know we've been engaged on your page there, and I follow that now, follower. So, but what's the list for you guys of where people can find you and come across you besides seeing it at an event? What does that look like?
Yeah. So I would say a lot of our info is mostly on Instagram. We post a lot of engaging content on there, from videos to
Cool.
behind the scenes type of stuff. So Instagram for sure. So at 6 Degrees Photobooth is our Instagram page. We're also on LinkedIn. So if you want to follow us through LinkedIn, you are more than welcome to, and you can connect with us on there. And then, of course, the website has a lot of detail in terms of what we do. So if you're looking for a wedding, having us at a wedding or a private event, or a corporate event, there are very specific pages related to that. So if you wanted to find out more, through the website would be a great channel.
Awesome. Yeah, it looks like there's tons of information as I'm just kind of like scroll back here, but you have, like I said, the first two buttons on the page here. You have the option to choose corporate or wedding or other, and then from there it guides you through a pretty easy looking process to there. And you also have case studies in here to showcase prior work for listeners. So highly encourage folks to look at that on here. And it sounds like you guys got lots of exciting things happening this year between sports teams and expanding across the prairies, which is just so neat. And yeah, I'm excited to get this episode out there to share the story. Christina, is there anything else you want to address from the company side of things here? This has been a great episode. I just want to make sure I ask that before we kind of close it off. But this has been great to have you on. But anything else you want to mention about the company or things upcoming from your guys' end?
I think we covered most of it. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was a really exciting chat. And I love just being able to share our story a little bit more. It's exciting. And I hope for anyone who, has been thinking about taking a leap, it's not impossible to do that. It takes a lot of guts, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But you live one life and you really do have to make the most of it, as cliche as it sounds. Just
No, definitely is. I would definitely be on your page for encouraging folks to explore it. Hopefully calculate that risk ahead of time, but no time like the present to make that jump if someone is thinking of it for sure. So
absolutely. Yeah.
awesome. Thank you so much, Christina, for making time today again, and we will chat more soon. So
Thank
thanks so
you.
much.
Thanks.